Okay, can everybody see that okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can see it okay. All right. And great. And maybe, Helen, if I could ask you to maybe just keep an eye on the chat to see and just stop me if we need to, or if someone has a question. And I'm going to try and keep an eye as well on sort of the screen here so I can see people. But tonight, as I said, we're in workshop number 3 of 4, and we're actually going to be, we're going to start out by reviewing the top 20 design patterns that through people's voting and prioritizing rose to the top. That's not to say that the other design patterns aren't important. So I'm going to present those design patterns. And then what we're going to do is we have 2 small group activities tonight. We're going to get into small groups to do a design pattern deep dive. So there is a handout, and geez Louise, I'm going to have to figure out how to get that handout to you. Because I don't see it in the chat, it's not enabling me to attach something from my desktop, but I'm going to figure that out in a few minutes. We're going to use that handout. You're going to have a listing of all the design patterns that I'm about to review, and in your small groups, you're going to take about 30 minutes to make a list of the ones that you can all agree on that you think are most important. And then if you have time, you're going to choose 2 or 3 of them and really think about what would that look and feel like in the context of a renovated or new Wakefield Memorial High School. So really the design patterns are kind of like the bread and butter of what we are doing here in the visioning. We want to be able to bounce ideas off of you, but we want to hear what it is that resonates with you about them and how you imagine it taking shape. If this is in fact a design pattern that you're prioritizing, and there may be things that are missing, so you can certainly add that within your list. We're then going to take a break for 15 minutes. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about the guiding principles, and we're going to share 4 or 5 different case studies of schools that have been designed and built recently, and talk to you about the guiding principles that were determined for them, and how that translated into design decisions that were made. Then you're going to get into small groups. I have a handout for you as well, where you're going to be able to look at sort of examples of design of guiding principles, choose from those or make up your own. And your group is going to create a set of guiding principles. And there'll be 7 different groups. So each group will be relatively small. So you really have an opportunity to contribute to the conversation. In the end, all of those notes are will be consolidated, and we will get a sense of what people are thinking. We'll share it with you next time and do a little massaging of it. So we are talking tonight about design patterns and guiding principles. In the 4th, our last workshop, which will be happening on November 30th, we're going to be getting into talking about key spaces and adjacencies. You'll have an opportunity to work in small groups with architects from SMMA, and they're going to guide you through some diagramming activity around different parts of the school and thinking about the connections between spaces. So we're really then start to put it all together. So that's what we're focusing on tonight. And all of these notes are being consolidated, and they can be found at the website, at the project website. And all you have to do is go to the link for that particular, workshop. You'll also be able to access there the handouts, the notes, and the recording of the actual workshop. So that's all going to be made available as well. So let's talk about our top 20 design patterns. And now this again, if you remember, you rated each one in terms of thumbs up or heart. And then you also prioritize them after each group of 9 or so, you prioritize them. And that's how I got this initial listing. That's not to say that this is going to be where we end up, but I'm showing them to you in order of the number of votes they received. So, so the very first one at the top of the list was universal design and access. So really sort of going beyond handicapped accessibility to make the building inviting and useful and usable by people with all different abilities. That means it's easy to navigate, that furniture is easy to use, colors and materials make it easy to read where you are and wayfind through the building. So universal design was right at the top. Again, I'm going to go through the top 20 and I'm going to go through them really quickly because you're going to have a chance to discuss them in your small groups. Next, which agile classrooms, makes sense that that's going to be top of mind for folks. And so elements we said of an agile classroom are flexible furniture, good storage, robust technology, good natural light. Oh, sorry. It's not letting me. There we go. Extended learning spaces. So beyond those agile classrooms, we want to be thinking about what are all the between spaces? How can we make them usable? If the whole place is fully wired and well furnished, we can have these extended learning spaces for small group, large group, and independent work. Breakout and quiet spaces. These could be spaces like a nook within a classroom, or it could be a nook within a hallway, or it could be a room with a door, a breakout room. It could be located immediately adjacent to a classroom or between two classrooms or within a classroom neighborhood. Now, STEM, STEAM, and makerspaces were also something that a lot of people got excited about. We know that that's programming that you really want to support. So we'll be thinking about how that connects to programs that actually exist and programs that you would like to create. Also up at the top was STEM and STEAM adjacencies. We use this example from West Bridgewater Middle High School, where we can see that just by co-locating our science classrooms with our math classrooms, and then on the floor below, art, video, computer, and robotics, we have what is essentially a STEAM wing of the school. And in this particular instance, there's an atrium in the middle that kind of ties it all together. It's no extra square footage. It's just a matter of thinking about those adjacencies. And connected to the idea of adjacencies, we also prioritize the idea of classroom neighborhoods. So we can think that, yes, we're still going to have primarily classrooms, and they still might be located along a hallway of some sort, but maybe along the way there's one of those extended learning spaces, or in this case, they called it a team room, and maybe a teacher planning area. And that then, especially if you build some visibility into these areas, creates kind of a hub of activity that bring those spaces together. We want to think about including special education classrooms as well, and maybe bathrooms nearby. So in a sense, what you then get is this cluster of spaces that work synergistically together. Welcoming arrival, easy visibility to and from the building, knowing where to enter, having it be comfortable and safe. Wayfinding and streetscapes using color and materials, light, flooring patterns, and just interesting things happening along the way, like exhibition or display, or windows into interesting things happening, to create a sense that there's connectivity. Not every space looks the same. Maybe we really differentiate different neighborhoods by color and materials. Dining as social commons. We talked about the importance of being able to build community through dining, and thinking about that dining space, the big dining space, as really a central multi-purpose space, but also maybe there are satellite smaller areas for smaller school community, and building community through dining. Professional work areas, this is part of the template, and we'll be looking at how do we cluster teachers together. Obviously, we have to make this building as flexible as possible so it can be used in different ways. And in my mind, around the professional work areas, that means we want to distribute them in ways that they can be used departmentally or interdepartmentally, depending on sort of the direction of the school over the coming decades. Heart of the school, you've got usually your cafeteria is sort of the heart your center. It could also be the library media center, but thinking about how community is built, whole school community. This might also be a venue, as you can see with these stairways here, for performance or gathering. Flexible science labs. MSBA template gives you large science labs. We want to think about lab spaces and instructional spaces. And as we mentioned last time, everything's going to be on wheels or easy to move around if it's in the center of the room. All of the stations for labs are around the perimeter, and that's an MSBA requirement. Community access, thinking about how do we co-locate core spaces together, like the gym, the cafe, the auditorium, the music areas, and in this case, local cable access TV. And I know you have your own cable access as well. So this then becomes a community access hub or community center that can be blocked off from the academic areas of the school. Now, a lot of this terminology, there's kind of a lot of overlap. It's a matter of what sticks and what resonates and what terms you'd like to use. So clusters of learning is a lot like neighborhoods, or here we have the Denver School of Science and Technology, where you've got the cafeteria and the gym that really become sort of a community center on weekends, and the school is completely separate over here. But you've also got clusters of classrooms and science classrooms in this case that creates a smaller school community. The idea of anytime, anywhere learning, those between spaces, it's not just in classrooms, but we talked about the breakout spaces, extended learning areas, areas where students can develop a sense of independence and agency while still being informally supervised by their teachers through some transparency. Media centers, learning commons, the idea that the media center is one of the hubs of the school, the intellectual hub of the school, and we wanted to have different qualities, maybe a more collaborative area, quiet areas, maybe that's where a makerspace is located, or some kind of adjacent classrooms. And enrichment spaces, we know that these are very important to you, the visual and performing arts and physical education, and we want to make sure, just as we talked about that core, that access is really easy. And we also want to be thinking about minimizing travel from our classroom neighborhoods to these shared spaces so that we can really minimize the amount of wasted sort of hallway space and travel time. Display and exhibition, thinking about formal, informal, enclosed, and fire-safe ways of displaying work, celebrating student work, showcasing things that are going on within the school. Cafe forum, like the idea of the heart of the school, seeing the cafe as sort of the central forum for the school. Visible learning and transparency, we talked about being able to showcase something like a makerspace here that you see, or seeing in and out of classrooms. In this case, you can see at where you can actually visually from the classroom see this small meeting space that is tucked away in the hallway. Spatial synergy, again, related to the idea of classroom clusters, but here you can see that all of these spaces are working off of each other. Instead of a long hallway, you've got a centrally located space that in and of itself is usable. Circulation is defined through floor patterning, and we've got classrooms, one set that opens to each other. So we've got a double classroom here if you want it. We've got a easy to access fabrication lab or makerspace that's right nearby. We've got nooks or a breakout room, you can close a door, nooks. So there's all different scales of spaces, and they're working together to create something that is greater than the sum of its parts. So those were your top 20 that I went through real quickly. The givens, now I made a list of givens because these were things that were also prioritized, but they're going to be something that we're going to do anyway. That doesn't mean you can't choose them as part of your top 8 to 12 that you're going to be working on with your group. But special education, push in special education, the idea that special education services are distributed throughout the school. You'll have OT, PT, sensory room perhaps, but that's going to be in a different, and that might be in a different location, but this is more sort of resource rooms that are integrated in a natural way that promote universal design. Flexible modular furniture, again, we're certainly going to be looking at that and helping you think about that. What's going to be the best way to have like practical, but also attractive and easy to maintain furniture. Security and welcome. We know that we're going to be thinking about that. We're going to be thinking about passive and active measures of security, and particularly the gatekeeping mechanism as you enter the school and minimizing exits and entry. And then sustainability. Again, we know we're going to be thinking about this. This was one of the things that was prioritized, and that's certainly going to be on our list. Passive and active measures of sustainability. Connected to that is the idea of building itself as teacher, where students and teachers can interact with the building. Now, there were these two outliers. It was very interesting to me that in this group of prioritized design patterns, indoor and outdoor connections and outdoor gathering didn't gather as many votes. Usually they're right up at the top. So I just put these two here. I thought, well, maybe people weren't, they were focusing on other things, but certainly we want to be thinking about indoor, outdoor connectivity. Now, I should say that as you enter into your small groups to do this prioritizing, that you're going to be able to combine these things. It's not like, you might want all of these. What we're trying to do is see what really floats up to the top and how you want to describe it, the things that are most important to you. And those are going to be the things that next time when we do our diagramming, we can help to sort of facilitate more conversations about what they actually look like and how they function. And then there's a series of other ones that are going to be on your handout, if I can figure out a way to get that handout to you. Let's see. And those are all here. And what I'm going to have to do is Shane, are you ready to get people into groups?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Shane, for helping out with that. So we're going to go into our small groups. Whoops, sorry. I'm going to open this up again. All right, we're going to go into our small groups. We have 40 minutes for this activity because we really want to give you time to interact with these design patterns and think about what they really mean to you. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to get a list, hopefully from somebody, of all the people that are in this group and be able to email you because I don't seem to be able to put it in the chat. I'm going to try it one more time.
So David, maybe the best thing to do is email me and I can push it out to, because I've got a group set up for this.
Are you able to put this in the chat? Usually it gives me an option in the chat to attach something, but it's not letting me do that. Well, anyway, Shane, I will email it to you in just a moment.
Email it to me and I can email it to people. It doesn't look like I can attach anything in the chat either.
Yeah, do you have everybody's email?
I do, yeah. Yes,
you've been sending out those emails. So we'll do that as soon as you get into your groups. What you might do when you get into your groups is just introduce yourself. Well, we take 2 minutes to get this emailed out to you, then look for your emails, and you're going to have all pictures of all the design patterns I just shared with you in the order I shared them. And so what we want you to do is individually review these design patterns, jot down the ones that you're most excited about as you think about the students and teachers at Wakefield Memorial. And then you're going to get in your group and you're going to choose the top 8 to 10 or 12 patterns. You can combine them. You can put bullet points underneath. As we said, there's lots of connectivity and take about 20 minutes to do that. And then you're going to choose 2 to 4 of those, and you're going to really think about what do we mean by that when we say that this would be nice to have in WMHS. What could this look like? And so just do some bullet points or narratives about it. each group is going to have a facilitator. They'll be taking notes as we go along. Are there any questions before we get into our groups? All right, so as you're getting into your groups, I'm going to email Shane. He's going to email you within the next minute or two with the handout. Welcome back. We'll wait till we get the whole group here. Sorry if that was an abrupt end to your conversation. I was sending, did people see the notices that I was sending, like 10 minutes, 5 minutes? And okay, sometimes I feel like it's so small on the top of the screen, it's a little hard to keep track of. All right. All right, well, I know I tried to give you as much time as possible there in your groups, tried to allow you to carry on those conversations. There were a lot of great conversations going on. We're going to take a 15-minute break, but before we do, let's just, in the next 5 minutes, maybe if we hear from each group, we'll just go through the 7 groups and share 2 of your top design patterns that you prioritized. And then if someone else has already said that, then go to some other ones that are a little bit lower down on your list. Okay, so we'll start with group number 1. And maybe I'll just have the facilitators of the groups. So that would be Diane. Are you there?
Sorry, I was just pulling up my notes. So 2 of the design patterns that we wanted to focus on were STEAM and STEM adjacencies. And then you just want us to talk about what we'd like to see in that adjacency.
Well, what was one other? Yeah. Why don't you say? Yeah. Why don't we do that? Talk about one of your design patterns and what you'd like, what that means to you. Yeah.
So we were hoping that by design, having those adjacencies would be tying together the departments that we feel work best with one another. We're hoping for an engineering and robotics lab, proximity to the outdoors, just so people can go outside and test their prototypes and whatnot. And then we also talked about how WCAT, the studio, could be in that space as well, because then it creates a synergy between WCAT as a community organization and our TV department, and helps make that part of the build more viable and more sustainable. And then our second design pattern.
If we're going to go into a little detail, I'm going to just stop you at 1.
Okay,
so
all right, sounds good.
That's great. Thanks, Diane. How about row 2, Meg? Yeah, so let's just focus on 1.
I need to unmute myself here.
There you go.
Okay, so I'll go with one of the first ones we had on from goal 1 would have been the STEM and STEAM makerspace. We thought that was really important and would be used with all of the areas within the school. And then down with our goal number 2, we really were thinking the heart of the school and the collaboration of learning spaces, I think would be really, really important.
Yeah, did you talk about the heart of the school and what that might look or feel like?
Well, we wanted it to be bright and a place where students could be to meet up, but then a lot of the areas within the academics or the entire school would branch off of there. But that's the hub, that's our central hub, and it's not just the cafeteria, but it's like a heart of the school would be in the center.
Great.
Okay.
All right. Group number 3, Andy. Oh, you're on mute.
So thank you. Yeah, we did spend some time talking about, the neighborhood versus the sectors, and, really centered around, the notion of flexibility and agile design. But I was going to just mention really anytime, anywhere learning, and, that as being a core function to the project-based learning stuff, and how that relates to the idea of clustered, and well, it all relates back to adjacencies, but anyway.
Yeah, that's definitely connected to the idea of clusters. It allows you to then spread the learning out. Great, thank you. Group number 4, Will.
One of the things we talked about was the heart of the school, but we thought that maybe we could have multiple hearts so that different student groups can have their own welcoming space. So maybe that's the media center, maybe that's an outdoor space like a garden. enrichment areas, performance venues, dining and social commons, and also the heart of the school could really be the place where storytelling and history was happening.
Okay, great. And group number 5, Erin.
Yes, so so many things. We really talked about the UDL design, but how really that encompasses so many things that are on this list, like agile classrooms and flexible science labs, breakout and quiet spaces. That's really UDL is providing choice for students and having that flexibility of furniture and lighting in spaces to really support their academic and social emotional needs.
Right.
But we also talked about the importance of dining as in the social commons, and really providing that space that's not so overwhelming for students when they come into such a large space to have lunch, to have small pockets, a really more comfortable area for students to have lunch. We've noticed that even within this year that students like to have options when they're having lunch. They don't want to sit in that large room. So I think that's a really important aspect that we should include.
Okay. Great, thanks. And group number 6, Geraldine.
It's really hard to go last. We talked about most of what everybody else talked about. One thing that we talked a little bit about that I don't know that I heard was the professional workspaces and how important some of that will become if we move to some of these other kind of setups where people aren't in their own classroom, or, you know, you might be not next to someone in your department, how important the time together in those independent spaces might be.
Okay, great. Thanks, Geraldine. And lastly, room number 7, Cara.
Okay. So we ran out of time before we did a kind of a crossover and tally, but definitely some common themes, a lot of what people have talked about today, or talked about already. But I guess I'll bring up the community access piece, because I don't think that maybe some people brought that up, but that was really important to our group, just like having this be, and I think that came up in our last meeting too, like a place that the community wants to go to, and we want to be able to demonstrate different performances and bring the community together. So I'll just add that, but lots of crossover with the other groups.
Okay, thank you. Okay, folks, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back at 8 o'clock. So, and we're going to talk about guiding principles. We'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. Everybody see that okay? Thumbs up. All right, great. All right, so we've got one more hour. We're going to get into small groups again, and we're going to talk about guiding principles and create a set of 5 to 7 guiding principles for the renovated and/or new Wakefield Memorial High School. And guiding principles are basically your big picture priorities. Some of them might be educationally focused, and some of them might be architecturally, or both. And you'll see when I show you some examples. And guiding principles are really important because there are so many phases that a project like this goes through, and there's lots of decisions that have to be made. So guiding principles are like those big lenses through which we're going to look at all the decisions in the different phases of the design process, and prioritize some things over others, because we're going to make sure that we're honoring our guiding principles. So what I want to do is I have 5 different case studies where we're going to share the guiding principles that were created during visioning for those projects, and then just show you how they translated into decisions that were made about the design of the building. And we're going to take we have 5 projects. We'll take about 25 minutes to do this, about 5 minutes per project. And then we're going to get into our small groups, and you'll have 30 minutes to create a set of guiding principles. So West Bridgewater Middle High School is about 6 years old at this point, the building, and it's a MSBA job. And we've seen various images from it, but I wanted to share the guiding principles. So school as community resource. And you're going to see, again, just like the design patterns, there's quite a bit of overlap in what people see as their big picture priorities. So right up at the top for them was school as community resource. This was actually a school that was slated to be a renovation, ended up being a brand new building after it went through this process and the community approved it. And in part, it's because it really functions well as a community center. STEM and art integration, we saw how we co-located spaces. We'll see again. Personalization, connection, and ownership. Now, this is a middle and a high school, and they wanted to have neighborhoods that, particularly for the middle school students, that really felt like a small learning community within the larger community. Adaptability and evolution, the ability to evolve over time in terms of how they organize classrooms and groupings of students and teachers throughout the building. Visible learning, there's quite a bit of transparency in this building to build that kind of sense of connectivity and agency, and then outdoor connections. So if we look at the plan for this, I'm sorry, am I not in? I'm going to get in presentation mode here. That would help. All right. So here's the entry to the school. As I said, it was a new building, originally slated to be a renovation addition. And we saw the plan for this. You enter in here, and we've got this whole community portion with all your big ticket spaces, like your gym, your cafeteria. Now, this cafeteria happens to be a beautiful multi-purpose space, lots of natural light, opening up into an interior courtyard. And they really encourage students to actually use the courtyard to navigate through the building and get some fresh air. Auditorium, music area, cable TV. And then we saw that co-located sort of robotics, video, art, and then right up above, you've got the science and the math. Here you have a collection of classrooms with that group seminar room and a teacher planning area, special education room as well, connected to each of these. And here's the atrium in the middle. This is that space that is their heart of the school. And you can see it's got great natural light out into this interior courtyard. And we've got a sort of a set of stairs here that are great carpeted, that are great for gathering. They're also great for performances. They rent out this space as a multi-use space, and so it's a revenue generator as well. Keep getting kicked out of. All right. And up at the top of the stairs here, that stairs we just saw, there's the cyber cafe, they call it. And it's an area with some high top tables and some flat screen monitors. It's right outside of the library. So it's one of those, it's kind of like a nice gathering area. It's also a smaller area for dining, connected to the cafeteria. We saw this before, this classroom neighborhood. Here's what this space looks like here. So this is looking into the teacher planning area here. And you've got also just all sorts of comfortable airport grade upholstered furniture that's easy to move around and set up for various types of gatherings. And here they thought a lot about the furniture that they ordered for this school. Actually, 90% of the chairs in the classrooms are on a rocker base. You can see here, this chair here is a rocker base. They researched this and they got really excited about people being able to move and fidget, which we know helps people concentrate. And then they have this kind of like these somewhat organically shaped individual desks that fit nicely together. So they thought a lot about their furniture. And this is that exterior courtyard that by the way, there is from the robotics area over here, which is their makerspace. There's a big garage door that opens directly out into this area and allows you to do work outside there, but it's completely protected and secure. And now I'm going to hand over to Phil Poinelli, who's going to talk about some of the SMA projects.
Thank you. Thank you, David. If we go to the next slide. So this is North Middlesex Regional High School. It serves 3 communities. It's out Route 2. And this is a school that we are going to recommend you take a look at. And so number one is the flexibility and evolution the building itself. And it's 2-story flexible pods, and is a humanities pod and a STEAM pod. And so that whole discussion of STEAM and art integration, STEM and art integration is important. What I find interesting is that, you know, STEM doesn't have any sort of handle on the integration of art, both graphic and performing arts are as much as humanities as they are of STEM. So, but anyhow, the idea that science can be dispersed across the course of the project, and that the floor plan be a very interdisciplinary floor plan. The outdoor learning environments was important to them, especially with their community garden program, and you'll see that in a minute. But a big part of this was really being able to express the joy of learning and have that carry through across all different aspects of the project. So this is the main entry to the school. We're seeing the PE pieces on the right, admin in the red brick, and beyond, set back, is a profile that is the auditorium, and it's engaging a full fly to the stage. Next. So unlike so many floor plans that you see, which are double loaded corridors, this is done in pods. So the upper left pod is the humanities pod, the upper right pod is the STEM pod, but there's an awful lot of cross fertilization that's going on. And what in the sort of off green lime, sort of muddy green in the middle is those are the science rooms. So typically science likes to be clustered all together. What we've done is we've distributed science into each of the 4 pods throughout the school. So you come and right, the learning commons right in the middle serves as pre and post function space to the auditorium, the gym, and music is off to the far left, and art is off to the far left. So on the second floor, again, what happens is that those spaces extrude up, and what we're looking at is a very compact floor plan. So you're never having to go very far to get from one, let's say, core academic to specialty areas. And the red in the middle is the learning commons, the library learning commons, and it's overlooking the cafeteria. Next, outdoor classrooms. They had an outdoor garden, service garden, that was a very active program. And so we replicated and enlarged it behind the school. And students actually grow thousands of pounds of fruits and vegetables for distribution to the community. Next.
Okay, hold on. There we
go. In the upper right, large group instruction space. So it's space where you can bring 2 or 3 classes together. You could bring in outdoor speakers. That small image below is a second large group instruction, which we actually just is part of the cafeteria. It's an alternate area for dining, and by use of a operable glass wall off dining hours, they're able to get a second LGI without having to add more square footage to the building. And then ways in which you can get light into the interior spaces. You can see students sitting on the left. They're also sitting up above in those corners looking into the LGI, and they also look into the STEM space. Next. One of the features that we have all through the school are these double-sided glass display cases. So not only are you displaying student work, but you're also showing the excitement of what's going on inside the classroom itself. So if you're looking into an art room or something like that, you're seeing that excitement. Here's the student dining. This is from above. So there's dining at the upper level. There's main dining in main area, and then also that learning stair. And tucked behind the stair is the student store, which you see in the upper right. Library Media Center, and again, this has the wall to the right overlooks that student dining commons, but we're bringing in natural light from 3 of the 4 sides, lots of nooks and crannies for kids to relate to, have conversations, or just curl up with a book. And this is an isometric of the STEM, one of the STEM labs, and so there's a STEM area right in the middle, and behind it, although it's shown there with tables, one of those is actually a dirty lab, and the other is a clean lab, computer lab. So they all feed together as a suite of STEM, different types of STEM activities. And sustainability is an important part of the school, and right from the very beginning, and from the community, and we achieved LEED Gold status with this project. Grafton High School has been in operation for 8 or 9 years. It's a little bit older. It's also a pod school, but again, the idea of these small learning communities and STEM, collaboration and communication, and being very student-centric were all important issues, as well as the outdoor connections. So this is the entrance to the school, and again, you're seeing the auditorium in full fly in its profile. And also clusters of classrooms. So again, it creates a very compact plan. Auditorium right in the middle of it, with music and art to its right, and that yellow area with the line through it is that learning common, is the dining commons that goes right through the school out into grassy areas and the football stadium beyond. So there's a lot of flow that goes on there. And then the gym and support spaces to the lower left. Second floor, in this case, the sciences were all grouped together. Those are in the lower right-hand corner, and those are greenhouses that stick out. And the third floor, and one of the floors is fitted out. The other has a roof slab so that it could expand into the future. So it's a community that was anticipating a very fast growth to the school, and so this is set up right down to the structural steel to be able to extrude up and add about space for about 300 more students. A lot of abundant light in the classrooms and marker boards everywhere. So they're really being able to create zones of learning within the classroom. Library, again, full of light in and of itself, and then off to the right is the wall overlooking, the glass wall overlooking that the dining commons. So we're seeing that in the upper right-hand corner. 600-seat theater, and it's really set up for musical theater and the spoken word, and there's a full fly to that space, to the stage. And music classrooms, both choral and band. And a TV a program with a control room to the left. And another view of that dining commons that, and in this case, it's all individual chairs, so they can fold up the tables, move them off to the side, and have really functional additional meeting space, especially used after school. And then to the right, underneath that brick wall, is the scramble servery, which you're seeing in the upper right-hand corner, which gives students a lot of options for what they dine on, and the participation significantly jumped once they incorporated the servery. And alternate PE spaces. So one to the lower left is it's got a dance bar in it. It's for yoga. It's for just about anything you can think of. And then they have a sort of traditional fitness room, weight room, which is a combination of weights and aerobics. And lots of somehow that one in the middle rotated, but spaces for students. And that's one of the things that we heard from your students is they want places to hang out. They want to be able to feel like when they get there, there's something that belongs to them. It's not just going into a classroom. And a little drama. This was goes from the dining commons up to the library. And more outdoor spaces, and done very casually with the outdoor classroom on the right, and the sculpture intended as a sculpture garden. I don't know if there's sculpture in there now, but what you're also seeing is those greenhouses that are jutting out from the science rooms. And all of that, then that dining commons leads out to the football, a plaza, and then the seating for the football and soccer field. And then again, you can see on the upper left that opportunity for expansion in the future. And important to this project was engaging the students in design charrettes to get them thinking about what was important to them. So this was during the design process where we brought them in and really had them draw, we drew, and got lots of ideas going back and forth.
Great, thanks, Phil. All right, we got two more to share before we get into our small groups. I wanted to share a renovation. This is the Mount Greylock Middle High School, and it opened about 2 years ago. So this was a renovation in which we kept the big ticket items, the gym and the auditorium, which were both larger than MSBA standards now. And so they chose to keep those and to renovate them. But anyway, we'll see what that looks like. Their guiding principles were flexible learning, personalization, finding ways that every student could feel connected to a smaller learning community within the building, supporting collaboration and connection, making learning visible, environmental integration, which in this beautiful site, which overlooks Mount Greylock, is something that was very important to them. And seamless technology used throughout the building. So a little bit pixelated this image here, but you can see that we've got the auditorium here and the gym here that were maintained. And then this is a new classroom wing, a 3-story classroom wing. And then this is a new addition in the front here, this whole area or a major renovation with an addition right here. And so if you look at the plan, you enter into the school here. We've got actually their tech area here. So this all becomes the community core with the gym, the stage, and the vocational wing of the school. And then in terms of the classroom neighborhoods, you can see that science has been co-located sort of with a prep room in between and then stacked on top of each other. So that's another way we can get the benefit of co-location of science classrooms and sharing of the systems that they use, but also get them in closer proximity to these classrooms, which also have some flex areas where the hallway just kind of widens out and they become extended learning areas. This is the addition in front of the school. So really it got a whole new face from the exterior of the building. You cannot tell that this is not a new building. And when you enter the building, it's got a very light, bright, kind of welcoming environment with the main office right here. Again, views out over to the mountains. And here's a typical classroom. Emphasis on views and natural light with these clear story windows that flood light throughout the room. Here is a typical science classroom, again, with perimeter stations and clear story lighting. This is their renovated theater and their renovated gym. So I have one more here, and that's the Dearborn STEM Academy, which is also an MSBA job. The building is 2 years old, and this is a building that it supports a grade 6-12 STEM Academy. It's a public school in the Boston public school system. They really do have a STEM focus, so their guiding principles were really kind of connected to that. So mastery-based learning, a lot of hands-on learning, emphasis on transdisciplinary instruction, and co-location of classrooms that allow for sort of grade level based transdisciplinary instruction. Design focus, they've got 2 very large makerspaces within this building, also a virtual lab, and personalized small learning communities. There are 3 cohorts of students within this 612 that each have their own administrative area, satellite administrative area, and dean of students, so that become their own small learning community. And this is the exterior of the building. This is a new building, and it's in a heavily residential context, so the volume of the building was broken down. You enter actually into the second floor of the building, but on the first floor, you have your very large commons, an atrium in the middle, and we call it a winter garden. That was sort of the terminology and the visioning that came up. It's an urban environment. The teachers felt that they wanted to have an indoor-outdoor space that was completely safe for students to spend time in, where they felt like there was abundant natural light. In this first floor area, you've got a commons. It's connected to the art area, the cafeteria, the media center and virtual lab, and then there are 2 fabrication labs and one of their health fitness rooms, and music is off here with more acoustic separation. You can see that this large atrium is at the center of the school, and that around it classrooms are co-located. So classrooms are all paired together, and in this situation they have movable walls between them that have good acoustic ratings when they're closed, but that allow them to do team teaching. Here is one of the cohort commons areas. So really from pretty much anywhere in the building, first of all, you get abundant natural light, but you can also see everywhere else within the building. So here you can see one of the cohort commons for the 6-7 grade, and then another cohort commons for the 8-9 cohort. And here's what those, and they're color coded so that there's a different sense of identity within them, and they're connected to these satellite administrative areas. So there's a dean of students, there's a conference room, and a teacher planning room in each of these different small learning communities. You can see that the classrooms actually have what they call world windows. You can use them as to write on, but they're glass, and they're like little sort of bay windows that match the architecture of the surrounding neighborhood. You can see here the movable wall in between these two classrooms, and lots of light, lots of good storage, lockable storage within. Teachers actually have, so there's a breakout room / teacher office that is shared by each set of classrooms. And those can be seen from the hallways as well. And they can be used as breakout rooms, but they can also be used as teacher offices for the teachers that occupy these classrooms. Here's some of the storage, both in the classroom and in the hallway. Because this is a very project-focused school, storage was extremely important. Here are some of the areas within the hallway where there are benches and just informal areas for gathering outside of the classroom. Here's one of the STEM labs. You can see electrical that pulls down from the ceiling. There's another STEM lab on the lower floor here that has its own patio and a wall system that just opens completely up into that patio, so you can extend the learning out there. Let's see, I lied. I said that I thought there was one more project. Just show you quickly, Da Vinci Schools in California, personalization, autonomy, and community. These are 3 schools that operate autonomously but come together, each with 500 students. Small learning neighborhoods, and flexibility and utility, great community access, lots of transparency and outdoor connectivity. This is a public school in Los Angeles, in a renovated, what was a spec office building with a big atrium in the middle. You can see we use color and material to define each of the different communities. And you can see that, the communities are arranged with classrooms around hubs and a large common space, and then smaller common spaces that connect to each of the classroom pods. And on the lower level, we have the district offices as well as an incubator space for local businesses that can rent inexpensively space there, and they serve as mentors for the students. This is a school that really emphasizes a lot of school to work and internships. And we saw this before, this diagram of the synergy between these spaces and this neighborhood. Here are just some of the images of the, so this really feels and looks like a high performance work environment. It doesn't feel like you're walking into a high school. It feels like you're in a workplace. And actually the kids operate as if it's a workplace. They operate very independently. You can see there's a lot of transparency. This is one of those central hubs around which are clustered classrooms. Here's the Makerspace. They use Project Lead the Way. Here's some of the extended learning areas. There's the Makerspace. All right, so with that, we are going to get into our small groups, and we're going to take 30 minutes. We'll take about 28 minutes to individually review the guiding principles. Now, they are in the handout that you were emailed along with the other handout that Shane sent along. So they're the guiding principles we just reviewed. You can circle the ones that seem to relate to, oh yeah, I think this would be a good one for Wakefield Memorial, or make up your own or mix and match in your group. We're going to ask you to create a list of 4 to 7. When next we meet, I'm going to see what floated to the top, and we'll combine all the lists and see what we come up with, and see if that feels like a good list to you. All right, any questions about that before we get into our groups? All right, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. You'll be in the same group that you had before, and I'll come visit, and I'll also send time notices along the way. All right, welcome back, everybody. So I really want to respect people's time. It's 9 o'clock. We sort of pushed it up to the limit here. We're not going to have a chance to debrief that conversation. But what I will be doing is putting together the notes, your collective notes. So for all you group leaders, please, if you didn't get a chance to tabulate them all, just take a little time to do that. Make sure they're in the folder or email them to me. And next time we meet, which is going to be on the 30th, we'll look at the collective list. I saw a lot of overlap in the guiding principles that people were discussing. But just to say, we really appreciate you taking the time during your evening after a long day to be doing this with us. And it's very helpful and very important as part of the process. So thank you very much. And I'll wait around if anybody has any questions, but I want to just give people the green light to go and enjoy the rest of your evening. And thank you very much.
Thank you, David.